Private equity is just a large firm, a bank on Wall Street that's looking to build their asset base. That's all private equity is. So you see this 10 to 18x? This has happened, where instead of 3 to 5x, if you put a bunch of practices together and they have some centralized management, they have centralized marketing, they have centralized billing, you have the opportunity to build this larger organization. Private equity would come in and buy it at a much higher valuation. Okay? That's why people like me and some of my friends are trying to put groups of practices together in order to get our gross revenue higher, our EBITDA higher, so that we can get valuations like this instead of like this. That's why people are putting practices together. Now, because of the financial correction, I don't know what's going to happen to private equity. I don't know how attractive groups of dental practices are going to look to private equity and Wall Street once the market tanks a little bit. But we'll see. We'll see. Okay. So, acquisition, once again, is it a fee-for-service practice, a PPO practice, a HMO practice, a Medicaid practice? We've talked about that. The practice data, how many active patients? How do you define an active patient? Typically, in our organization, we define an active patient as somebody that's been in the office for any reason in the last 18 months. 18 months in a day, they become an inactive patient, and we put them into our reactivation campaign. Okay? How many new patients are you getting per month? What is the production? What is the collections? What is the collection to production ratio? Why would you be collecting less money than you produce? Insurance is one reason. So what we would call that is net production, which is you're going to take a certain amount off of your fee schedule because you've agreed to take this dental insurance. So net production versus collections now. Why would your net production and collections be less than 100%? Why would you collect less than you're actually producing? Does anybody know? It happens all the time. I see it every single day. Yes?
Your staff's not employed.
It could be a problem in the billing department. Any other reasons?
If you take like care credit or something?
Yeah, it could be long-term adjustments off of a third-party payer. Why else? Embezzlement could be a big one. All right, the bottom line is, if your business systems aren't tight, you can end up collecting much less than you actually produce. I see it happen all the time. How come 80% of dentists in their lifetime will be embezzled upon? It's a true statistic. Why is that? They don't know what to look for. They don't know what to look for. They're unsophisticated business people. 80% of all dental practice owners will be embezzled upon in their career at some point. So either you have a problem with your systems in the billing department. They don't know how to process claims. They don't know how to deal with PPO insurance. They're not collecting the patient copay at the time of service. There's embezzlement. There's any number of reasons, but we see it happen all the time. In fact, if the production to collection ratio was 100% all the time, I probably wouldn't have a consulting firm, because that's what we do. We find the holes in the bucket, and we help people fix them. All right, the percentage of production from hygiene department. Anybody know what the percentage of production should be from the hygiene department? Yes, sir. 30 to 33%. Yeah. A third of the production of the dental office should come from the hygiene department for a general dental practice. Okay.
If it's less or greater than that, is that a good sign or a bad sign?
If it's what?
If say it's like 25%, is that something that you can easily improve on, or is that something that is a weakness in the practice?
Well, it's a weakness in the practice, but it can definitely be improved upon. Yeah.
Is it like a niche that you look for if you're purchasing, like, oh, there's 25 in this practice, 25% of the production is hygiene, this might be a good opportunity.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely, because we have lots of different methods to increase the hygiene department. Is it easy, Matt?
To increase the hygiene department?
Yes.
Depends on your team.
It's not
really.
always easy.
No,
right?
it's not.
Right. This is Dr. Matt Slivka, by the way. He's in Tucson, Arizona. He's going to get up and talk in here in a bit. Any other comments about hygiene? 30 to 33% is a good benchmark. Accounts receivable. Everybody know what accounts receivable is? What is it?
The money you're owed.
Accounts receivable is the money that other people owe you. It could be patients owing you money. It could be a note that you're holding for somebody else. You could have lent money to somebody else. But it's usually money that insurance companies owe you or the patients owe you. General rule of thumb, you don't want your accounts receivable to be greater than 100%, 1 month's collections. And if it's 150 or 200 or 300, we know we have a problem. I've seen 600% of 1 month's collections. Happens often. Okay, so patient attrition rate. How many people are actually leaving your practice versus coming into your practice? Case acceptance average. How many times are people saying yes to your treatment plans? That is something that a lot of unsophisticated business owners don't track. Production per exam. How much on average per exam that you're doing in the hygiene department or a new patient on the doctor's side, how much on average are you producing per exam? That is a very, very valuable statistic to track. Provider ADA code analysis. We talked about that. Is there opportunity? Are there things that you can do that are currently being referred out? Are they not doing enough crown and bridge? Are they referring out all of their oral surgery? Are they not doing any molar root canal? Do they not place implants? Do they not do any removable? Whatever that happens to be, if you have a skill set that is not being done in the practice, then that is an opportunity for you. Okay, demographics, we talked about this. I don't want to beat a dead horse, but the doctor to patient ratio in that particular area should be between at least 2,000, closer to 2,500. You get up over 3,000 people per dentist, and you are starting to get into the favorable demographic area. But if you're a cosmetic dentist and you want to do really big cases, all on fours, surgical type stuff, it is more important to look at whether or not the socioeconomics of the area can support the niche that you're trying to get into. Okay, how long has the practice been in its current location? How long has the staff been with the practice? What percentage of the total overhead is dedicated to long-term staff members? This is something that happens a lot. You can have a great staff that's been with the doctor for 35 years. The doctor is worn out. He's ready to hand the torch over to you. Great staff. Patients love the staff. Patients love the doctor who's departing. And then you look at the percentage of the payroll, and the payroll is 40% of the total revenue. They're overpaid because they've gotten a dollar raise every single year that they've been there, and they've been there for 35 years. So they're getting paid way out of range. That's a big problem that a lot of people have to deal with when they're acquiring practice. Yes, sir?
What kind of system do you use to track those variables?
Which variables?
One, two slides.
Yeah, so you're talking about, I'm assuming you're talking about attrition rates,
Correct.
case acceptance, production per exam, provider EDA code analysis, all those things. From the practice management software, if you have a skilled office manager, you can figure those things out. I like to use advanced analytics software. There's great companies called Divergent, Dental Intel. They'll go into the back of the practice management software and they generate reports for all those sorts of things. Yep. But there are ways, if you know math really well and you know your algebra, to figure that out based on reports that you can pull from the practice management software. Good question, though. Thank you. All right. So, practice reputation. How long is the practice, or how is the practice regarded around town? What's the online reputation of the practice? This is becoming more, it's funny, even since I made this slide presentation a couple years ago, online reputation has become more and more important. The consumer habits have changed quite a bit with online reputation software, Yelp, and Google reviews and those sorts of things are becoming more and more important. In fact, I have colleagues that acquire practices aggressively, and unless they have a good online reputation, they think it's too much of a big hole to dig out of, and they won't even acquire a practice that has a bad online reputation. Has the practice been aggressive in external marketing in the past? You should do a little bit of background research to see how they've gotten their new patients in the past. Have discounts or offers been given to increase patient acquisition? All right, we talked about untapped opportunity. and overhead and cash flow expenses. Okay, this is a really important statistic to take note of. The average overhead in the United States for a dental practice is 68 to 72%. 68 to 72%. That's high. Okay? So let's do that math again. 68 to 72%. How much are we paying our doctors or yourself? 30%. Add 30 to 68. What's that? 98. What's 98 minus, what's 100 minus 98? What's 2 mean? That's your EBITDA. 0.02. 2%. So in $1 million practice, if you're 68% overhead, you're paying yourself 30%, 2% of $1 million is? That's not sexy at all. For all that work, for $1 million of dentistry to be going through your hands, through that practice, for all the liability, all the debt, all the responsibility, you should be making more than $20,000 off of $1 million practice. Okay? For that amount of profit, you should be working for a DSO. Okay. How about 72? Let's do the math on that. What's 72 plus 30? What is it? 102. What's 100 minus 102? Negative 2. What's negative 2 times 100 times $1 million? You just lost 20 grand. Holy shit. You lost 20 grand for owning a dental practice. You definitely should be working for a DSO. This is the average situation for dental practices in the United States right now. Okay? Don't let this be you as a practice owner. It doesn't really matter to you if this is happening if you're working for somebody. But don't let it be you as a practice owner. How do you avoid that? You learn how to run an effective dental practice. You learn the basics of business. You learn how to read a P&L. You learn the difference between a P&L and a balance sheet. You learn what overhead means. You understand what cash flow means. You understand how to analyze how a dollar goes through your practice. You understand the billing cycle. You understand how to audit the billing department. So if your collections to production ratio is anything less than 100%, you know how to go figure out where that money is. That's how you don't become this. Okay. Overhead numbers you should know. Payroll should be between 25 and 30%. A lot of people will say, a lot of consultants that you guys talk to might say, Dr. Costas is wrong. That should be 20 to 25%. The reason why we settle here at 30%, typically, with practices that we work with, is we like to encourage people to spend money on payroll. We want to encourage people to spend on the best people that they can recruit in a particular area. I take pride in my offices for having the highest paid staff in our general area. And how can I do that? I can do that because I know that there are other areas on the P&L, variable expenses, where I can shave dollars and percentage points off to make up for an extra 5% of payroll. So our lab fee should be between 7 and 9%. Dental supplies should be under 5%. Facility and equipment should be less than 9%. And here is our phase 1 rule. 30, payroll. 30, fixed and variable expenses. 30, doctor production or doctor compensation. 10%, what?
Profit.
Profit. This is a very, 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 very important number. Most dental practices in the United States do not get this 10% number. So if we're going to go back to our $1 million example, 10% profit would be $100,000 in profit, right? $100,000 in profit. So if you're generating 30% of the overall production of the $1 million, you would make $300,000 as a producer. As the owner of the practice, you would make an additional 10% or $100,000 as the owner. That's why you own a dental practice. You don't own a dental practice for -2 to 2%, or you shouldn't, which is what most people do in the United States. Okay? Tale of two practices. I'm going to take you guys through a very, very clear case study of two of my